My name is Lucy Cowton and I work for Futamura. I'm the Sustainability Manager, and I'm going to talk to you today about NatureFlex packaging films. So just give you a brief introduction to Futamura and who we are. We're a Japanese company established 1947, and we've got a turnover of $794 million. The company's actually got 6 divisions. Cellulose is only one of the divisions. That's the one that I'm going to talk about more today. But we do also have other divisions, including non-wovens, fibrous casings, and we manufacture conventional plastic films as well, but really just for the Japanese market. About 19,000 employees, obviously a global company. Currently, we manufacture about 37,000 tonnes of cellulose film, but we have just announced an increase in capacity, so that'll be nearer to 40,000 tonnes going forwards. We also have 3 production sites, so we manufacture in Japan, in the UK, and in America as well. And together, with those, we have 2 R&D centres, as well as a number of sales and technical offices around the world. So in terms of what is NatureFlex, so it's a regenerated cellulose film. We manufacture coated films as well as uncoated films. For the coated films, these are heat sealable films, and the coatings provide moisture barrier properties as well. And you may not have heard of NatureFlex, but I'm guessing most people have heard of cellophane. We manufacture cellophane as well. That's actually our trademark. I know it's used a lot as a generic term, but it is in fact a regenerated cellulose film and not a polypropylene film. I think it can be used to refer to plastic films. And the cellophane film market is declining. It has been declining for a number of years, mainly due to the cost compared with polypropylene. But NatureFlex, since we launched it in about 2003, has just grown year on year. And now the overall cellulose market is growing and not declining. Cellulose films have got they're obviously renewable, based on wood pulp, sourced from managed plantations. And all our NatureFlex films are certified both industrially and home compostable. And Futamura is a direct signatory to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, the New Plastics Economy commitment. And the goal that we have is for all of our cellulose films to be compostable by 2025. So just looking at the technical properties quickly, cellulose films have got very good gloss, transparency. They've actually got very high heat resistance. They don't melt, they're not thermoplastic. And they have very good gas barrier and mineral oil barrier as well. And that's just an inherent property. They're also inherently anti-static as well. We do tailor the moisture permeability. So when we coat the films, we can make them either permeable or give them good moisture barrier. And they actually also have very good chemical resistance as well. Being sort of more akin to paper, they have very good deadfall. They're used quite often for twist wrap. And I already mentioned good resistance to sort of greases and oils. And they do have a wide heat seal range as well. And they're easy to print. So in terms of environmental properties, I already mentioned the wood pulp sourced from FSC or PEFC certified plantations, and they have a very high bio-based content as well, so generally greater than 90%. Mentioned also they're certified to the industrial composting standards and also to OK Compost Home standard by TUV Austria. They are also suitable for anaerobic digestion, and we have done quite a lot of work on the biodegradability and sort of water and the marine environment. And whilst they're not certified OK biodegradable marine, they do biodegrade and disintegrate in the marine environment. So in terms of where NatureFlex fits in the sort of flexible packaging world, I think it's fair to say packaging films tend to be a sort of either the soft stretchy films like polyethylene, cast polypropylene, or they tend to be the sort of stiffer, more oriented films like polypropylene and polyester. And what you generally find in this for biofilms, the majority of them are soft and stretchy, so they're much more like polyethylene, which is why a number of these materials are used as carrier bags or use sort of caddy liners. There are only really two in the oriented space, so that's PLA and cellulose film, or our sort of NatureFlex. And our film, so I guess it's quite unique in terms of combining oriented plastic properties with the heat resistance as well. So it's quite often used in laminate structures. So you can use NatureFlex as the outer web of a laminate. It's printable. You can also use the metallized films that we do for the barrier layer, and you can combine it with a sort of an inner layer with a biopolymer to give you triplexes or duplex structures that can still be compostable and used for a number of different applications. Just, I guess, to put it in context a little bit, I mean, the world around us is plastic, really, and plastic does have exceptional functionality, you know, in terms of packaging materials, and I guess that's why we try and mimic those properties with our products. But there are obviously a lot of unintended consequences, you know, really marine litter that we see in the microplastics issues, to name but a few that we have highlighted in the media. We also see some common myths, I guess, for compostables. You know, the things that people say to us, you know, compostables are a contaminant in the recycling stream. But then anything other than the material that you try and recycle is a contaminant. So other plastics, other conventional plastics, are also contaminants in recycling streams. So we just need good labeling, and we also need good techniques for separating these materials out. We also hear that compostables aren't circular. I guess we disagree with that, because these materials can be organically recycled and then used for the compost to sort of replenish the soils and to grow new materials that equally can be used to grow in new sort of materials for bioplastics. No infrastructure. There is quite a lot of composting infrastructure. I guess one of the issues is the collection systems aren't in place. And there will be more infrastructure as well coming along as we move towards sort of mandatory food waste collections. And I think the other thing we hear is that we can recycle our way out of the crisis that we're in, which hopefully, you know, recycling will improve and it will be a big part of the solution, but we don't think it's it's not the whole answer. And you know, what we say is that we're not competing against materials that are recyclable. You know, it's not really about one material versus another, or one, you know, end of life option versus another. It's really about choosing the right material in the right application, and you need to take the sort of the right end of use solution into account. So for instance, if you've got a polyester bottle, you know, we wouldn't advocate that that's a good application for compostable materials. You know, it's polyester, it's a good recycling stream, so keep it as a polyester bottle. Coffee pods, slightly different story, because obviously they contain quite a lot of coffee inside them. You know, we think that is a good application for compostable materials. There's a lot of, or I should say, there was a report that was released in 2020 called Breaking the Plastic Wave by the Pew Charitable Trust and Systemic. And this report, I guess, sort of puts together a lot of statistics, interesting information. But, you know, in 2016, 11 million tonnes of plastic leaked into the ocean, which is obviously a huge amount of plastic. And without action, you know, the flow of plastic into the ocean will triple by 2040 to about 29 million tonnes. And so this report kind of outlines the changes, or what they class as system change scenarios, to reduce 80% of plastic pollution by 2040. And one of the solutions is substitution. And they're, you know, sort of predicting that we can substitute 17% of plastic with paper and compostable materials. And the target is, I guess, by 2040 to replace 39 million tonnes of materials with compostables going forwards. And these just, I've just noticed the time, so I'll speed up a bit. These are just a few of the sort of applications. So we don't manufacture materials for caddy liners, but obviously that's one of the, I guess, you know, good fits in terms of compostable materials. Lids for coffee capsules, our materials are used in those items. We manufacture a lot of film for twist wrap for sweets. These materials, I guess, while in theory recyclable, they're so small, but the reality is that they probably won't ever be recycled. We manufacture films for tea, sort of sachets, ready meal films on the trays. Another one, if they're contaminated, they won't be recycled. Compostable fruit labels. There are countries that are starting to mandate these as being compostable. And again, sort of tea bag sachets and packaging for confectionery. And there's just some other examples that you can see there. When you get combinations of material like plastic and paper, these are more challenging to recycle. Our films are used for tampons as well. Our materials are biodegradable. Biodegradable in wastewater. So if they're accidentally, put in the toilet, then we know that our films will biodegrade as well. And just in terms of sort of, the organic waste side of it, organic waste is a much bigger issue, or we like to say opportunity, than plastic waste. And I mentioned before the food waste collections, which will be mandatory, are obviously the perfect vehicle to get the compostable packaging through to organic recycling. And there are benefits, it saves CO2 emissions, can create energy by diverting organic waste from landfill. And it also helps in creating sort of soil enriching compost as well. So it's not really recycling versus composting. I think the two of them go together hand in hand. It's just about picking the right application for the right or the right material for the right application. And that's it. So I don't know if anyone has any questions.